All right, what up? It's episode 79. Definitely the experts are back after a bye week because we had our good buddy, good friend, former roommate, dad of the podcast, Ryan Moe, and his wonderful wife, Brittany. They eloped and they are now married. Um, so congratulations to them. I know they're loyal listeners. So let us be the first to congratulate the Mr. and Mrs. Ryan Moe.
Yeah, I want to think that Brutus spends his weekends listening to Definitely the Experts. Um, and a big congratulations to them. It was a tough thing to have to do a wedding in the middle of the pandemic, but it came, it went, and it sounds like they're doing quite well. Very happy to be done with the planning process now. So,
Oh yeah, I can't imagine just how much of a relief. I kind of half wanted to ask him, and I just didn't figure. Like, just don't bring it up. Ask him next time I see him. So I was like, well, how nice is it just that it's all just fucking over now?
I mean, it really sounded like to me when I talked to him at the couple of things before the wedding. Yeah, I don't know. He was pretty Brutus about it, where he was like, yeah, I don't know. I just want it to be done at this point. It sounded like Brittany was really the main planner, so he was kind of just more or less along for the ride.
Yeah,
So,
no, that sounds about right. But
but good
yeah,
to be done with it.
yeah, it ended up being a pretty. I thought the ceremony was real nice, other than the whole what do you call it? The officiant is kind of corny, but what can you do?
Bro, that train. That was so funny.
Dude, I might have to. That's definitely made the short list. If I have any say in, well, if I get married, and B, if I get to have any say where the venue is, I wouldn't exclude that place.
Have a nice train go by.
Right in the middle of the thing. Nice westbound, crude oil unit train. Honestly, kind of surprised it was only the one, because that's a pretty busy area there. But
Yeah,
anyways, that's not why you tuned in.
right. Tuned in because Sam built a wonderful tool that he wants to talk about.
I don't know. I put on my big brain hat and did the nerdiest thing ever. I was like, you know what? Fantasy football is cool, but you know what's even cooler? Data. So what I started doing here, well, actually, let me back up. So there's a really good one of my favorite podcasts to listen to on the more serious side of things, Freakonomics. They did an episode I don't know, about a year ago about gambling, about sports betting, and then it also ties in with daily fantasy, and then kind of gives the backstory of the progress that's been made around the country in different states and legalizing just straight up gambling when it comes to sports betting, and also the legal challenges and some of the math behind daily fantasy, and whether it is gambling, whether it's a game of skill, which is was a hot debate. And end of the day, it was like, well, if you look at all the results from this, it's a very small number of people that actually consistently win these things, and it's they went through the whole legal process and were able to prove in the results of the study that it is a game of skill. So that kind of got me thinking, like, all right, it's a game of skill. I've dabbled in daily fantasy a little bit with very limited success. So, like, how do you go about actually improving your skill, right? So I did a little digging. I was like, okay, well, I know it's like highly based it's deeply rooted in statistics. I know just enough statistics to be dangerous. I took a stats class in college. So that's fine. I can maybe fake my way through that and do some real basic stuff. So that got me thinking, okay, so if I do basic stats and stuff, well, first I need a data set. And that's kind of what got the wheels turning here in my head. And I was looking for a long time, like, where can I just download fantasy football results data from the last couple of years and try and just have a data set to kind of experiment with and see if I can back out any meaningful information or trends or stats out of the raw raw scores. So it wasn't really a great resource that I could find right away. But then the other day, it dawned upon me, what if I just go to Pro Football Reference And the good Lord, the folks there that, Pro Football Reference, I haven't spent a ton of time on. I just kind of knew of it. But they have literally everything related to football, and then obviously all their other sports, whether it's baseball, basketball. The whole family of pro sports websites are just fantastic, treasure troves of data. And the best part here is every single table on their website you can download. So you can get CSV files and you can get Excel files. So I've been going through and building this data set for fantasy football purposes, just downloading passing, rushing, receiving stats for every game from 2019. I got 2 weeks done. I haven't made a whole ton of progress, but by downloading all the box score stats, your standard, completion, attempts, yards, touchdowns, rushing yards, all that stuff, all in one nice little neat table, and then combining it with the entire rest of the league by week, I'm able to establish a pretty close approximation of pretty damn close to what their DraftKings scoring point total was for that week. So my plan here is to go through the entire season for 2019, build that all out, and then have point totals for every single game for every single player. It's kind of painstaking. I'm sure there's a way to automate this, and if I was better at computers and coding and data scraping, but I'm not, so I got to do it somewhat in the manual way. But anyways, after that data set's built, my plan is to look at that and try and figure out who the low variance players are, kind of what the spreads are, to look at standard deviations, some other statistics, looking at these populations, and then where the rubber meets the road here is to take that and combine it with the CSV file you can download from DraftKings every single week, which lists every single player, their position, their matchup, their average point total, which isn't particularly useful when you have guys like Jameis Winston, who has an average point total of 23.34 points a game. But he's not going to be doing that because he is a backup quarterback as of right now. So can manipulate that a little bit, but most importantly, it has the player, their position, and their salary, their DraftKings salary. And then the ultimate goal here would be to adjust the point totals provided by DraftKings based on 2019 data, and then write an optimization function to look at every possible combination of players and spit out a lineup that maximizes the point total constrained to the position requirements, the salary cap, and then look at that. And my hypothesis is if I look at low variance players, that's going to be an ideal fit for cash games, to have just all dudes that are going to score a lot of points but have low floors, consistent performers week in, week out. Put that lineup together and then just play double ups. That is the initial plan with this whole thing. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if I'm going to even doing this the right way, but I'm going to have to definitely test off the stats book, and I got about a week and a half here before real games start. So kind of a pet project here. It's kind of fun. It's the 2 or 3 times I sat down and started working on this. It'll be interesting. So stay tuned for further updates once I get this thing further built out and I'm actually getting some games and I can actually put this into reality and actually let her rip, see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's a super ambitious thing to do, but I mean, I think it's, if anything, a good start to really doing what, like fantasy analysts tell people to do, and that's basically to separate that, the human tendency to latch on to certain characteristics of people based off of them, basically their like human characteristics, and instead try to look at some of these things that are more present in the numbers. And it's really cool what you're doing, because it's like a very like basically like cutting open and dissecting like each individual player unit, and basically just boiling them down to nothing but numbers and data. And I mean, that's basically in essence what you get when you toy around with any like DFS optimizers or anything like web tools like that. But being able to like cut it open and kind of see like, okay, well, I have all this data, I can use this not only to like optimize my lineups, but, I can look at, tendencies. Maybe I want to look at how consistent are the Tennessee wide receivers, or how consistent are, like these people doing, like the, I don't know, this running back compared to this running back, maybe for like fantasy football purposes. So it's like, I was kind of talking to you about it earlier, but it's like once you get this data in here and you kind of like get your bearings on how to manipulate it, I mean, it could be like so much more, like once you explore some of this stuff. And I think that's pretty cool, just being able to apply it like in that multifaceted way to like basically anything that you want to do with like fantasy, or daily fantasy, or placing bets, I guess, like individual bets even on things. It's like, okay, well, I can run my own numbers here and I can see what this is against Vegas odds, and kind of try to find the loopholes here or there based off of numbers.
Yeah, and I know you can do, I think there's different sites you can go to and get some of this information, but you're only seeing the end result here. And I always kind of just struggle with that. Like, sure, I can look at projected point totals from somewhere, whether it's Fantasy Pros or whatever, and look at just things that people have written, that people are probably doing a lot of the same stuff in the background. But that's just something I given the little bit of technical knowledge I have about how to do statistics, and I don't know, just maybe use Excel. I'm definitely going to feel more comfortable about it if I can go through and build the thing myself, and then I have a really firm grasp of how I got to that conclusion, whatever it is, the end result, as opposed to just taking the end results at face value. But and also, I'm just kind of a nerd, and like building spreadsheets is kind of fun.
Yeah, building spreadsheets. So
and I realize, and this is kind of cool, because like once it'll continue to build upon itself, right? So I'm going to go through, do the initial legwork here and build out the 2019 one, and then as long as I'm just consistent about doing it every week during the season, I'll have the 2021. The 2020 season, all that data built in there, and then 2021 and so on and so forth, that building up that backlog, here at first is just a pain. Be nice to go back a couple of years and get stuff, but given time constraints right now with the season starting next week, probably won't happen right away. Maybe that's an off-season project, but yeah, I don't know. It's pretty cool. It's interesting to see how to make this all work. A couple of things I'm even already thinking of, like, man, okay, this is fine. This works as is, but I realized, yesterday as I'm downloading all the stuff from Pro Football Reference, like, oh, this doesn't do anything. This speaks nothing to defense, which admittedly is not a
like matchups and stuff.
No, I mean, I'm like within, if you back to the DraftKings situation, the actual defense position.
Oh, actual DST.
Yeah, which admittedly not a huge, especially for cash games, that's not going to be a huge factor. Not going to eat up a whole ton of salary, but it just is completely ignoring that. So, I mean, that's one limitation. I don't know how to fix that. I'm not going to worry about that for here now, since
I don't even know how you would, because defense, it's such like it's like jam-packed, like there's so much jam-packed into DST.
Right, that accounts for so much, and it's such, at the end of the day, it's typically not a huge boom or bust position.
Take a low DST every single time.
Right, I mean, that's probably what I'm honestly going to do, is when I write this constraint, or this optimization function, I'll just, instead of 50 grand for the salary cap, I'll just drop it down to 48 or 47.5 or something, save myself $2,500 for a defense, and then just, aside from that, give me the best.
That's probably a good idea. Yeah, just like a lot, whatever amounts, that just arbitrary number.
And then just pick one. So, yeah, I'm not too worried about that. The other thing that says in the database I'm building out here, the the Pro Football Reference stuff does not include kick return, punt return, touchdown stuff, or 2-point conversions, which is the only thing. I think those are the only scoring mechanisms that aren't accounted for, but I don't think those are. I think my guess is those are both all high variance bonuses, really, and not really. You can't be consistent week to week scoring touchdowns in the kick return game or 2-point conversions. That's a little cherry on top. So limitation, yes. Is it going to be a huge stumbling block for the model? I don't think so. But
No, and right, like you're saying, like DST, it's like almost entirely matchup based, right? So it's like, I don't know how you like. Yeah, I guess you could plot data and you could see who's. I mean, I guess I don't know how significant that would be compared to what you're actually doing with these individual players. Then, like, yeah, I don't know. I could tell you that this matchup is a good value just by looking at it.
Right. I mean,
So I don't know. I don't know how much more useful it would be to like plot data points for that, given like turnover any given year for a defense, and I guess like the variance as a whole in a defensive unit is obviously going to be much more than the variance of like players from season to season.
Right.
Even transitioning to other teams.
Yeah, you take an entire half of the team and just put it into one position, and yeah, there's 11 players in every single play, and it's so matchup dependent. So, yeah, I mean, long term, I would love to be able to play around with that and figure it out, but that's not my priority right off the bat here. I think, and you said something really interesting earlier with, you can look at, having a data set, and that's one of the things I've learned by listening and praying at the altar of Freakonomics, so to speak, is, well, all economics is just having a data set and asking questions of it. So, whether you said the Tennessee receivers, how consistent are they? Like, or how about a comparison? What are the Tennessee receivers doing with Marcus Mariota, and then what do they do with Ryan Tannehill playing? Compare and contrast. Same, different. Who's benefiting? Who's not? So there's so many different things. I think once this is built out, what we can do and look at. Looking at opponents. So, okay, if I plot production of teams against, looking at defenses the other way, looking at what offenses are doing against common defenses, and looking for matchups that way. I guess that's more stuff that I'm going to look at in the back end and kind of look at qualitatively.
Yeah.
You spit out this optimized lineup, and then give yourself a couple different options, and then within those kind of cherry pick which matchups that the data set's not accounting for. Kind of use the quantitative and qualitative things in conjunction with each other, and then make a decision based on that. So it's a work in progress. I think I always try to tell myself when we're using analytics, it's a tool. It's really cool, but you don't want to follow it blindly.
Right. No, definitely not. I mean, right. Like you're saying, it's a reference material, like something to help better understand trends and, what's going on from a more objective
So then I don't, because maybe I'll break the tendency. I'll actually maybe play Eric Ebron if the numbers suggest that it's worthwhile doing so. Yeah, because I'm sure, and the other way, there's players that I will not play without looking at all the numbers in such a detailed manner. And then I'm sure there's the opposite is true, where if you go back at my DFS lineups probably for the last couple of years, you'll probably see, I don't know, Kenyon Drake or Christian Kirk popping up a lot. Or I definitely did this for just regular fantasy when I'm drafting dudes. It's like, oh yeah, Kenyon Drake, that's a guy I'm going to target because he was good last year for a little bit.
Yeah.
So anyways, I'm going to build this thing out. We're going to make it do some stuff. I'm going to ask some questions of the data, and we're going to get some answers, and hopefully they mean something. That's the big, fingers crossed. I hope I'm just not doing all this and it just doesn't do anything productive.
Yeah. This is a cool project to be working on. Props to you for wanting to do this, because, there's a lot of people out there that make a ton of money basically doing this stuff. And, I guess the thing that I'll most relate it to is there's a guy on Reddit that does the fantasy football draft analytics stuff just for free, and he does a lot of cool stuff like analyzing. It's the beer sheets thing that I sent you last year. where it's just a spreadsheet, of data from all these dudes, and it's like I really like it though because it really using it as like a live draft board. It's cool because it has data like positional scarcity built into there, so you can tell okay, after this guy's picked, there's 8% of dudes finish above RB 30 or something like that, or wide receiver 25, whatever the data point set is. So having stuff like that just to like use and to like, I mean, obviously we like watch a ton of like football and stuff, so just being able to like do things like play DraftKings or fantasy football, it's cool to have stuff.
Yeah, that's
like this,
super. Yeah, here I'll look at so for like week 1. Actually, no, that's not a good way to look at that. Well, whatever. Speaking in general terms, because I've absolutely fallen into this trap where not so much with Le'Veon Bell anymore, but like before his first season with the Jets, it was Le'Veon Bell, he's really good, he should probably be good at fantasy, right? And it's like, well, that's discounting that he's playing for the Jets, and the Jets were a dumpster fire. But it's very easy on the elite end to think like, okay, this player is really good, so I assume he's good at fantasy, which is not necessarily the case.
Yeah.
Case
Correct.
in point, on the other end of the spectrum, Jameis Winston. Yeah, he threw 30 touchdowns or however many touchdowns and threw for 1 million yards last year. He also threw 30 picks. Great for fantasy because of the minimal penalty, only 1 point or whatever it is when you throw a pick. But that's a lot more costly in the real game. So.
Right. Good at fantasy, but
Bit of a struggle IRL.
Yeah.
So, so stay tuned for that. We'll get some more updates in the next week or two whenever we get some more stuff put in here and we get her fired up and spitting out some answers. See if we can start printing some money here. So,
right.
you want to move on here? Let's go to. So we had our redraft Tundra Tenor league draft last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever the hell that was. And we got some players.
Yeah. So we did like a live mock draft, I think like the week before that, using the same settings and stuff. So let me I think this is really funny because I just found this like Football Guys like draft analyzer report thing. And I don't, read the report. Oh, shit. All right, I guess I'm not going to send that. All right, so anyway, I was reading these, like, analyzing things, and it was, like, looking at some of the stuff. And I was pretty happy with how my draft turned out. I'm pulling up the draft results right now. Just the draft board. Yeah, I don't know. It was there weren't a ton of surprises here. I wasn't sure how people would react to like Superflex, but it seemed like everybody did a pretty good job of like there wasn't any like I'm trying to look around here and I don't remember any like super egregiously like disgusting picks or like taco picks where it was like okay.
Yeah, I mean there's a handful I think once you got a little later, but right off the bat up front and at the top of the draft there was nothing crazy. Like we can debate whether okay, Gronk went in the 13th. That's not crazy. That was I'm thinking of your law school. Where he went
You're
like
thinking
of
the other one.
Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah.
So right off the bat, you kind of cucked me. I was very open last week about how I was going to go Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson if they're available at the tail end of the first and top of the second. Well, I guess it wasn't just you. You got Patrick Mahomes at 3. Lamar Jackson went 5. I was a little surprised Russell Wilson, third quarterback, went at 8 ahead of me.
Yeah, top 3 dudes right off the board before your pick even in the first round. Yeah, I don't know. I talked myself into it. I actually listened to there was a Fantasy Pros Superflex mock draft, and they talked me into really capitalizing on the I got to take a Pat Mahomes or Lamar Jackson if they fall to me at 1-3 there. And that's what happened. So yeah, I don't know. It was pretty interesting looking at this draft board, comparing specifically me and you, because it really did seem like we used completely polar opposite strategies, looking at like how we drafted and like the general strategy used by each of us. Like I was looking at this and it was like I went quarterback pretty early, you went quarterback pretty late, you went wide receiver heavy at the beginning. I went running back heavy in the beginning.
Yeah, completely diametrically opposed draft strategies. And I mean, for rounds 1 through 4, I followed the playbook I discussed last week. You know, if I couldn't super stack quarterbacks at the end of the first round, which wasn't going to happen with those 3 off the board as soon as they were, I was going to try and super stack receivers and then go. So I got Michael Thomas, top receiver off the board, and then Devontae Adams at the turn. So, mission accomplished.
Which was solid. Yeah, get the 2 dudes that are just going to have huge target shares. Yeah. So I guess, I mean, let's just go through each of us. I'll try to rattle stuff off a little faster than I did last time. But you wanna start since you already kind of started there with
in the league off the board, and then at that point I'm chasing my rear. I'm chasing for running backs at this point because all the top running backs are gone by now. So round 3, Miles Sanders, and at the turn, this is really gonna bite me in the ass. But I got Leonard Fournette in the 4th, which he just got cut. So. Dang it. I would have taken Melvin Gordon or Chris Carson or Lev Bell or any of these guys right now, but I didn't. And no.
You wouldn't have known. You know, it's at the time Leonard Fournette was absolutely
and then after that, I stocked up heavy on receivers here. So Calvin Ridley, Robert Woods, the next 2 picks before finally getting quarterback in the 7th round, getting my guy Matthew Stafford. I feel very good about that value there. Then grabbed Austin Hooper at tight end. Not in love with him, but
I'll tell you, that's the only pick I think of your draft that I was like, nope.
Yeah, I don't know, because who did I pass on? Next tight end taken was Hunter Henry, which we talked about him ad nauseum last week. Not really a huge fan of what they got going on in LA with that Chargers offense, and then I don't know. TJ Hawkinson, Gronk, Noah Fant, Hayden Hurst, those are all guys that were still there. So, it's a guy. I got a guy to play tight end. So, whatever. Position filled.
That's right.
Next picked, much better I feel about, is Devontae Parker. Top guy in Miami. So with, just to recap the receivers I got. Oh, and
he's your wide receiver
Michael
5,
Thomas,
which
Adams,
is
Calvin
nuts.
Ridley, Robert Woods, Devontae Parker, Christian Kirk are my 6 receivers on my roster. So, yeah, that's fucking top end receivers. That is absolutely a position of strength. Kirk Cousins, got him in the 10th as my second quarterback. So 2 pretty solid quarterbacks. I think it's really going to be interesting here to see what I want to do with that super flex position. Do I want to play Kirk Cousins in that second quarterback slot, or do I throw in one of my 6 receivers there? I think that'll be a question week in, week out. Running back, it's going to be I'm playing 2 running backs, and that's it, because the last guys I got are Tariq Cohen, Zach Moss, Chase Edmonds. So those are all kind of handcuff guys, which Tariq Cohen right now is plugged into my starting lineup with the news that David Montgomery is having a little bit of an injury issue right now. It might be out the first week or 2 of the season, so that's my best bet right now, running back, alongside Miles Sanders.
Not a terrible insurance policy, though. I mean, I think that if you didn't have Tariq Cohen, and I don't know, I'm just looking at this draft board, I'm just like, I mean, even people above him, I'm looking at, like, I guess if you didn't take Austin Hooper and instead you took, like, a running back, I guess there's Jonathan Taylor there. But besides that round, it's like some of these dudes, like in the 9th round, I'm looking at, like Marlon Mack, J.K. Dobbins, Kareem Hunt, Ronald Jones, Phillip Lindsay, DeAndre Swift. I don't know, man.
Yeah, some of these guys might go off yet this season, but
Tariq Cohen, I think, is better than a lot of these dudes.
He's going to get Brissett. He's going to get targets in the passing game, if nothing else.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's like especially with David Montgomery out. I mean, he's 100%, like, the volume on both rushing and passing is going to be elevated, just because of the change of game plan there.
Tariq Cohen's one of my. This is case in point we were talking about earlier. This is a guy that I absolutely always target in my drafts, because of that, because he's the Swiss Army knife guy in that offense. So.
Yeah, he was an RB1 in 2018.
I definitely reached for him last year. Which chastised by that guy in that random league we were in.
A little burned. Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully he has a bounce back year fantasy wise, and then if so, that's a nice piece to have. I mean, right now I'm holding on to Leonard Fournette on the bench, and hopefully he signs somewhere. But I actually went through the other day at work. I've clicked through every single roster, and I was like, okay, where would Leonard Fournette fit? Where would be a good fit for him? There was like 4 or 5 that I said, yeah, maybe. There was a rumor came out that said, yeah, he'd love to go to LA and be with Jalen Ramsey, with the Rams.
God, that would be such a fucking mess. I'd be so mad because I have Cam Akers on this team and my law school team. I would like that because I have Leonard Fournette on this team and my dynasty team. I don't know if that would. I mean, I don't know. I think that I'm trying to think. I don't know if that would be beneficial for Leonard Fournette. I think it'd be a running back by committee for sure.
Anywhere is better than a free agent.
Oh well, yeah.
What did you? Yes. Didn't she say some shit to me like, "Oh, what if he goes to Philly, and he gets paired with my other running back?" She just really double cuck me. It doesn't sound like that's what's gonna happen.
I mean, I obviously with the David Montgomery news, there's been inklings that he could end up in Chicago, because obviously they need a running back. I don't think that they stick with Tariq Cohen there, and I don't know what the injured groin news is or what the timetable is. They said 2 to 4 weeks, right? But
hammies are touchy.
Yeah, dude takes a lot of hits. He's a bruiser.
Fit that mold between the tackle guy that Tariq Cohen is definitely not. So, no. I think that he might have to sit for a little while some other teams get some more injury bugs, honestly. I was looking at this thing too, kind of not really that seriously, but looking at some of these teams, and it's kind of like, I don't know, maybe like Atlanta if Todd Gurley goes down. Golly, it's really easy to say that no one's like Denver, absolutely not. New England, no way. Green Bay, no.
Like, I don't know. LA drafted Joshua Kelly, but if Josh Kelly and Justin Jackson aren't good, do they bring in somebody to complement Austin Eckler? James Conner
were to go down, could see that.
Okay, yeah. What about Washington football team?
Probably because they just parted ways with Darius Geis. They have the ageless Adrian Peterson. What about Tampa?
Man.
They got Shady McCoy and Ronald Jones. And Dario Ogunbowale.
I mean, I kind of thought about it. There was a little report that I guess somebody asked Bruce Arians if Fournette was on the thing.
Oh, the other team, the team that I think that piqued my interest the most was Seattle. Chris Carson and Travis Homer. Yeah, okay. I
And
think
Carlos
that might be an
Hyde?
upgrade. Rashad Penny.
That'd be interesting. Starting on the pup. Yeah, I don't know. That would be.
Yeah.
There's a lot of teams out here I'm looking at now that would be like, huh, yeah, that'd be interesting. I think really it'd be nice to see him behind like a team that has like a decent and quality offensive line. Like I think that would be a cool thing to see, and obviously for you it would be a fortunate thing to have Leonard Fournette because I don't think he's played behind like a quality
Dallas,
offensive line
have
ever.
Behind, and just have Zeke take a seat for a little bit.
Right. I don't know. I think he ends up on a team sooner rather than later. Obviously, I mean, he was a 1,000-yard rusher last year. It's not like he's like terrible, but I mean, his entire appeal in fantasy was, he wasn't necessarily the most efficient, but he was getting
a lot of
20
red zone
carries a
carries
game,
too, wasn't he?
netting you
very productive, scored touchdowns.
Yeah, which was.
Did he not?
Well, no, actually, I don't think he did. He didn't. He had a lot of red zone touches, but he only scored 2 touchdowns, I believe, last year. So the big appeal this year,
point hold,
maybe 3. Okay, well, I was gonna say that he was due for positive regression, because he did have a lot of carries in the red zone. So he was due to probably score more rushing touchdowns.
He's been declining ever since his
year.
rookie year in 2017. 9 touchdowns, 5 in 2018, 3 last year.
Yes. So, given that, I mean, just like by pure virtue of his workload, he was probably going to net more than 3. But now it's like a mess, obviously, because it's like, well, what the fuck?
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, anyways, that's my lineup. So my running back depth was not great, and now it's worse because of Leonard Fournette not being on the team. So that situation might work itself out. Fortunately, I was going to say, fortunately, I'm working.
I'll tell you, man.
Dealing from a position of strength at receiver, so I might have to start looking for trade partners sooner rather than later this season.
You might not even have to. I was going to say that I was going to bring up that
I already put
I don't know if you saw the Alvin Kamara news.
Yeah, I'm
okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I saw that and said, yes, please. I saw you just dropped him.
Yeah. So that literally it happened right after I was like, fuck, I already have a bunch of handcuffs. I'll just pick up Raquel Armstead. Like, he's not going to be good, but he's going to be a guy that I can he's going to be a starter is the idea. So I'll have him on there as like an insurance policy, basically low cost insurance policy. This guy's playing downs. And then the news came out about Alvin Kamara, and I was like, okay.
So let's just say I get Latavius Murray. Would you want to do a trade? Latavius for Raquel Armstead. Oh, I guess not.
Serious?
Judging on your tone, I suppose I'll just keep Latavius Murray.
I'll just go into what I was going to say here, because what I am looking at right now is the Saints cap situation, pulled up on Spot Track. I don't and so there was a thing that came out today about the Saints are open to the idea of trading Alvin Kamara. And then Alvin Kamara's agent came out and said, we had no idea this was happening. We thought we were still working on a contract. And so I was like, uh-oh. And then I looked at their cap situation. Their cap situation, I don't think that they are going to be able, even if they wanted to, sign Alvin Kamara. It's pretty bad. Like, I'm looking at this here. I didn't realize just how many people they had on the payroll here on some big-ass contracts, man. They obviously have Drew Brees on for another year. He has a lot of money lined up. Let me just go down the list of high number people or players here. Demario Davis is he's about a $10 million cap hit. Cameron Jordan is the same. Jared Cook, Teron Armstead, Sheldon Rankins, Michael Thomas, Malcolm Brown, Nick Easton. these guys are all, yeah, obviously except for Michael Thomas, like linemen who cost a lot of money. I didn't realize how many linemen they had on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball, taking up like a ton of money. And then in addition to, as well as, those people, they have people who are free agents after this year, like Andres Pete. He's another guard who's on a big ass contract, and he has to get paid. Malcolm Jenkins is a little older, but they signed him this year. He also has a big ass contract. Emmanuel Sanders, they signed him to a pretty hefty contract. So like looking at all these people, and then I was like, fuck, that's a ton of stuff. So I just went to their multi-year summary, and their cap allocations already for next year is at $253,931,602. Which is a healthy amount.
What? Salary cap is less than that.
They're definitely projected into the negative. So the idea of like paying a running back. So I guess today the news came out that Joe Mixon got a 4-year, $48 million contract. And you have to imagine that Alvin Kamara is going to demand more than that.
It's calculate. Yeah.
So given the circumstances,
market value $14.7 million.
Yeah. Really, like the news of that contract coming out was kind of like in tandem with some of this other stuff. It's like, ooh, like I wasn't really entertaining the idea that like he's actually would sit out, but like looking at all this stuff, it's like, I mean, I don't know. I think he probably just might. And I looked at the CBA, and so with the CBA, you can hold out. All you had to do was report to, I think it was like the 30-day whatever before the league begins, or like the mandatory mini camp. Like you had to report to that, and then in order to accrue a season. And so that's why we saw in the news like Joe Mixon was dealing with quote unquote migraines, and why Alvin Kamara has been sitting out, because after you report to the mandatory mini camp, what happens after that is, the teams have to levy the fines against you. They can't waive those fines anymore, so it's a hefty financial penalty to just like sit out for these games. But what these players can kind of do though is, I mean, they can just take the financial cost of that and just sit out, or do the Joe Mixon thing and say you have an injury that a trainer cannot evaluate.
Yes.
So there's a couple of avenues here, especially with COVID, that I think make it a much more real possibility that some of these dudes like Dalvin Cook and Alvin Kamara sit out until they're given a contract, or they're traded. So given that, I really think that there's a pretty decent chance that Latavius Murray starts at least this season. And if that's the case, I mean, you have a bona fide dude who's definitely an RB1. If you look at his game log when Alvin Kamara's out,
hopefully
he's
I bid
a
high
stud.
enough on him on the waiver wire. 2.
You'd bid $1.
I might need to revise that before tomorrow.
Uh-oh.
Waivers go through. I don't know how much to spend, man. I've never had this money pool of things of dudes to pick up off the waiver wire, so I don't want to like just blow my whole bankroll here right off before the season even starts, but also like maybe.
I mean, if it's a starting running back, like I don't know. I know all the analytics stuff that I've looked at for Fab usually put it in percentage of your cap, or your total Fab. So I mean, I don't know. I don't think it would be wild to do like in the realm of like 25 to 50%
to more. We'll get there eventually.
Anyway, so
Well, you got to run through your
that's
lineup here.
that's fantasy talk. Yeah, that's what I meant. I was like, that's fantasy news, I guess. What's going on right now in the fantasy world? So my lineup here, I'll say right off the top, I am a lot more pleased with how this one turned out than the mock one that we did. I think this is a much more balanced team. Still utilized my primary strategy that I wanted to going into it, but ended up with a team that I was very happy with. I think I got a lot of value, especially at the back end of it. So going off, I got Pat Mahomes, at 1-3 there. And then followed that up with Joe Mixon and Kenyon Drake at my round 2, round 3 picks. I was a little nervous about taking Miles Sanders in the 3rd round, so I ended up foregoing him and going with Kenyon Drake. I am very happy that Joe Mixon got paid, because for a little bit I was like, shit.
Lev Bell situation around 2 for
these migraines. I know every single year since 2017 I've had to deal with some bullshit with my starting running back that I draft. I drafted David Johnson, I think in 2017, and that was the year that he went down in week 2 or week 1 and didn't return for the season. And then I drafted Lev Bell 2018. I don't think something happened last year.
That worked.
I had Christian McCaffrey. So anyway, I went quarterback and dual running back there to kind of solidify what was going on. And I saw some wide receiver value, so I went with Kenyon Drake. And so then I was blessed coming back around at round 4. I landed DJ Moore. I was happy about that. There was, looking at some of these dudes, it was oh gosh, I don't know if I'm going to get a solid wide receiver 1. But I like DJ Moore there. And then following that, I took Matt Ryan in the 5th round. It was a little bit, I think, of a reach there. I don't know if I'd call it a reach, but I really wanted to secure Matt Ryan as my second quarterback because I knew I liked him. And so to pair him with Pat Mahomes, I thought that was a pretty solid combo. I didn't want to wait for a bargain bin quarterback just because I knew I'd be playing both these quarterbacks pretty much all the time in tandem. So I wanted to get him and make sure that I was comfortable with those two guys. And then so following that, I took A.J. Brown in the 6th round. He wasn't really the guy I wanted. I really wanted Allen Robinson, who went 2 picks before him. I ended up with A.J. Brown, and everything that the analytics are telling me about A.J. Brown tell me that A.J. Brown probably won't be as good as he was last year, but having him as a wide receiver 2 who has a lot of upside, I guess that's fine. And especially my next pick, I was able to land Mark Andrews in the 7th round, which I thought was pretty nuts. So having a reliable tight end who hopefully I'll just be able to, set and forget, I think provides a lot of value just for my fantasy sanity. Not having to play the fantasy tight end waiver wire is something that maybe. Just being able to not do that is kind of cool. So following that, I was able to land, these next 2 guys. I was able to get Jonathan Taylor and Juju Smith-Schuster. And I liked how both of these turned out because it kind of rounds out my starting 3 and starting 3 wide receivers and running backs in a way that I really liked after this round was complete. So having Joe Mixon, Kenyon Drake, Jonathan Taylor, and then DJ Moore, A.J. Brown, Juju as my starting 3 for each of those positional groups, I was pretty happy with that. I was worried about my wide receiver depth because in the last mock, I just did a real shit job of getting wide receiver depth. So being able to land that, I was happy about that. So then to finish off this draft, I drafted DeAndre Swift, Cam Akers, Ryan Tannehill, Cam Newton, Marvin Jones, and Latavius Murray, who I threw to the waiver wire and picked up Raquel Armstead. So we'll put him there instead. So I was, it was fine. I wish I would have been able to grab a better high upside wideout in the end of the draft there. I grabbed Marvin Jones, just the eternal, like, he's going to, like, speaking of, like, low variance dudes, Marvin Jones, one of the lowest variance wide receivers out there, solid wide receiver 3 for pretty much every single game he plays, nothing more, nothing less. So getting a guy like that's like, yeah, sure, I don't know, I'll get him if I need to use him, hopefully not. But getting DeAndre Swift and Cam Akers there, just hoping that basically my strategy in this draft and in other drafts that I've done has just been to get at least, I managed to get all 3 of like the, 3 out of 4, I guess we'll say, of the top end rookie running backs. So just basically hoping that one of these dudes, pans out and trying to hedge my bets there, because rookie running backs, I mean, generally do receive, at least some workload, if not at the beginning of the season, evolving towards the end of the season. So hoping that one of these dudes is going to end up being a bona fide RB1 on their team, maybe not necessarily in fantasy, but on their team emerge as the guy. So that was kind of the strategy there. And at the end of the draft, I just took two more quarterbacks for pure value purposes here. I saw a bit of a run happen here right before Ryan Tannehill. So I just wanted to secure a couple of guys because I realized now, looking at the end of the draft, the quarterback waiver wire is slim pickings. So, if any of my quarterbacks happen to get injured, God forbid, or, I have to play the quarterbacks on bye weeks, I have dudes to sub in.
Yeah.
So that was the general
what I did.
takeaway from that.
Yeah,
like literally polar opposite of Sam's strategy. Hopefully.
Yeah,
that's the idea.
Other noteworthy things in here. DeAndre Hopkins lasting till the 3rd round.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's something.
Yeah, I mean, right, with a lot of people wanting to, and it was computer auto draft. Yeah, looking at some of these things, like I'm trying to remember even like some of these surprise. Well, Cheech took San Francisco 49ers defense in the 9th round. Is big, big pomp and circumstance moment. Yeah, it doesn't really look like there was a lot of stuff. I mean, they were bookended the draft. There were 2 of our dudes that were not there, and so we just auto drafted. So their teams are a little out of whack, but I mean, for the most part, their teams didn't end up terrible. Like looking at some of these things, it's like it could have definitely been worse. Like looking at both of these teams, I'm just looking at Brian and Finch's teams. It's like, I don't know, like not the worst.
Like
OJ Howard as your starting tight end isn't great.
Hunter Henry and
You'll need to pick somebody up.
Don't love that.
No, don't love that. Love it more than OJ Howard, but it's not awesome. And then, yeah, Cordell has a plethora of running backs who may or may not pan out. But I was looking at his wide receiver core because it's pretty thin, but it didn't end up being that bad between the people that it took and where they took him. Like D-Hop and Odell Beckham is a pretty good wide receiver 1 and 2, and then Jarvis Landry is okay as a wide receiver 3, and Brandon Ayuk might pan out just by sheer San Francisco not having any pass catchers.
Yeah, San Francisco pass catchers. Just as a little side tangent. Have you ever looked? You looked at who they have on their roster, receiver. It is they have the strangest receiving.
They have Kevin White
core that I've seen in a long time. Yes, there's the aforementioned Kevin White. There's also some household names. You have Tavon Austin and Travis Benjamin also in that group. So you have Sean Poindexter, Trent Taylor. So just, yeah, it's that threesome there of Kevin White, Tavon Austin, Travis Benjamin is just a well-traveled group. They all found their way to San Francisco. They got Debo.
Yeah, they have nobody
Debo,
catching
like
the ball there, man. Besides George Kittle,
but not really as number one, I don't think. That too. Yeah, Dante Pettis, I don't know.
He's also hurt.
No. Kendrick Bourne, pass.
Don't like him.
Kevin White.
Richie James.
Give me a break.
Kevin White. Yeah, so that being said, Brandon Ayuk may just crack the starting roster there.
And then I like
this. Pretty decent fucking shot, I'd say.
What the CPU did for Brian with. Okay, got Mike Evans as your wide receiver one. That's fine in the fourth. Went heavy running back as well, and then DJ Chark. Okay, and then boy, we just rattled off every rookie receiver we had left on the board: CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, Laviska Shenault. So
yeah,
boy, if one of those three pops off, I mean, you're gonna be fine. But
that's right.
Maybe.
But by golly, we'll see. Yeah, I don't know about that
Michel
whole down 10 to the end there.
Yeah.
Pretty good start to the draft, though, I'd say. Derrick Henry, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a deadly combo.
Higher than QB 6. So that's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely going as like QB3.
Yeah, there's so much hype around that Arizona team going into the season. They're the Browns from last year. Right.
I don't know.
Right.
This year's Browns, or last year's Browns. I don't know.
They look good.
They might be fine, but they
probably
they gave the Niners a fight last year, which was
I was looking at while I was at work. I was looking at their schedule from last year, their results, and there's only like 2 or 3 games that they lost by more than one score. So they were competitive in a lot of those games last year. Well, first of all, they should have started the season. Let's see. They could have started the season. What the hell am I looking at? Like 3-1. Okay. If you just give them wins in the one score.
Okay.
Games. This is not what I'm thinking of. Yeah, okay. So they could have beat Detroit in overtime in that game that they came storming back in. They only lost by 6 on the road at Baltimore. That's like, if this is college football, that's a really impressive road loss.
Okay.
Lost by 18 to the Panthers. Lost by 17 to Seattle. So they're 0-3-1 going into week 5. Oh, who am I thinking of? I'm thinking of Detroit. That's what I'm thinking of. So, yeah, I don't know. They rattled off wins. These wins aren't really impressive looking back. At Cincinnati, Atlanta, and at the Giants. All right. Didn't really beat anybody great there. They beat Cleveland week 15 and then at Seattle. But, yeah, they should have should have had that win against San Francisco at home. But, no, never mind. I'm getting, the Detroit Lions. Their season's just kind of really interesting to look back on. They're the team that should have won a ton more games. So, yeah, because they were so much better than the Cardinals in that week 1 game. So they should have won that one instead of tying. They beat the Chargers. They beat the Eagles. They really should have won that game against Kansas City going into the bye week. So they should have been 4-0 at the break. They absolutely should have beaten Green Bay the first time. So at that point, that would have put them 5-0. And they beat the Giants. The last win was week 8 against the Giants. And they lost 8 straight to finish the season.
shit. What an end. Holy shit.
I'm sorry, 9 games. They lost 9 straight during the season.
Fuck.
God
damn.
damn. That they absolutely should.
What
Again,
a painful in that last game in particular. Oh, yuck.
Better luck Better luck this year, Lions.
Well, in any case, yeah, that's right. Well, so that's our draft. I'm excited to see where it ends up. I'll just mention really quickly, I'm not going to go through my draft, but I did a draft in a fantasy league with other law students. It was a 14-team league, or it is a 14-team league, and I already texted Sam about it, but 14 is too many. Do not do a 14-team league. It's too deep. It's dumb. I ended up, I think, in my opinion, with a pretty balanced team. I don't have a lot of, like, who the fuck's that guy? Like, guys on my squad? Or, like, you know, when the fuck am I going to play Benny Snell? Or, like, you know, am I really going to put Joshua Kelly into my fucking lineup? Chase Edmonds, is he going into my fucking flex? You know, like, I don't have any really of those dudes in my team. The only thing I'll say is, like, for some fucking reason in this draft, tight ends just flew off the board. There's no rhyme or reason why. They just did. Like Sam was referencing earlier, I think, that Rob Gronkowski went in the 4th round. You know, in that same fucking round, in the 4th round, 3 tight ends went. It was Mark Andrews, Rob Gronkowski, and Hayden Hurst. And it was like, what the fuck is going on? And in the next round, 3 more tight ends went off in Zach Ertz, Jared Cook, and Darren Waller in the 5th round. And so it was like, fuck, dude. Like, I don't think this is like a problem because it's like a 14-team league. It's just like, why are we doing this? Like, this is just like somebody started, like, you know, the run, and it's just like it like kind of sputtered and spittered on until I got to the 8th round, and I was looking at my board, and I was like, fuck, dude, I don't have a tight end, and like we are looking at some real like projects at tight end at that point. Like, I think I was looking at like going through the rounds. It's like, shit, dude. Draft, like, oh, Noah Fant's gone.
Do I go?
TJ Hawkinson's gone. I mean, I was really looking down there. I was like, fuck, man. I might have to draft like Jonnu Smith. Man. I might have to draft Blake Jarwin. All
right.
I ended up with Mike Gesicki, which was okay. I'm not pleased about it. But I got him, and then, you know, things dried up pretty quickly after that. Right after that, it was like Eric Ebron, Austin Hooper, Jack Doyle, Blake Jarwin, Jonnu Smith, Chris Herndon, Dallas Goedert all went.
You know what? I really want to do this. I might just join
so
another random league, and then first two picks go George Kittle and Travis Kelce, and just see what happens. Let me just grab both those, set the tone early.
Tight end.
Right.
But yeah, put yourself at the turn.
I will take both of those, and
shit, dude.
Yeah, best of luck.
I mean,
no,
like,
that's why I would, this
looking at
the.
I mean, I don't think it's a great strategy, but like,
but dude, that's just a different play on my philosophy of just be great at one thing, just figure it out the rest of the way. Well, you can, have to get,
and it's tight end.
Yeah, I'd have to get into
where you can only play one.
Make sure to be able to flex that.
You play him in the flex, but.
And then, it would be that, and then just fill out the rest of my roster, and then just stockpile just every other quarterback. Just to hoard them all.
Shit.
Yep, have my entire bench is all quarterbacks.
Just take a bunch of them. Oh, yeah. So anyway, so we're playing. I mean, Sam and I are obviously in that other Dynasty League as well. So there'll be hopefully plenty of fantasy updates, on a week-to-week basis here, just based off of these things. By the way, in our Dynasty League, I found this Dallas
Oh, do they?
Fantasy Football Outpost and this Pick on the Block. They actually do a podcast. Found it on YouTube. I was listening to that a little bit today. I was like, can I get some insider trading information here? No, I didn't get anything good at all. They were just doing rankings, and it was like, great. I understand already what the rankings are.
I want some leverage, please.
I just want to know who you want to trade for, or like what. Yeah, I want pretty much. Because all I've been getting in this league are just shit offers and like straight garbage dump. Like, because all the fantasy rosters are so small, so each person is like a precious little pearl to each fantasy owner. So it's like, yeah, I'll give up, I don't know, Zach Moss, but you have to give me Odell Beckham Jr. and also, Dalvin Cook. Thank you. Anyway, so looking forward to it. Fantasy or regular football is almost here.
What is it, next Thursday's kickoff game already? Yeah, without the preseason,
dude.
Down.
I mean, month of August just flew by.
I couldn't
in my
believe
opinion.
School started today around here. Did you start class today? Is that why you're sending all your bird law stuff?
No.
Oh, nice.
No, I had to do homework. It starts tomorrow though for me. But yeah, I think so. I'm a little less excited about like actually commuting to class. I'm able to bike right now, which is like I like it, and it removes a lot of the like, oh shit, I gotta walk on these like crowded ass sidewalks again. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. I like that right now. I don't think I have class on Friday, which is really nice. But we'll see.
Hell yeah.
We'll keep you guys updated with school.
Yeah, it's good.
Anyway.
Like, rare
all right. I think we can wrap
rate,
it up
share,
there.
Subscribe.
Tie a bow on it.
Yeah.